Welcome to the City of Eureka Springs Bozeman Planning Commission meeting, Tuesday, October the 12th, 2021. Tom, if you could do roll call and establish a quorum, please.
Yes, Ann Salee,
Here.
Ferguson Stewart,
Here.
Melissa Green,
Here.
Joe Hill,
Here.
and I, Tom Buford, am present.
We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we don't have any items for the Board of Zoning tonight, so we'll move on to the Planning Commission. Does anybody have anything they would like to add to the agenda? And if not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'd like to add just a quick discussion on the parking.
Okay.
And a quick discussion about the mobile home areas, zones.
Okay, we can add parking as number 7, and number 8 can be mobile homes. Motion to approve the additions?
I make a motion that we approve the additions to the agenda as written.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we do not have any public comments tonight. So for our new business, we're going to start off with a discussion with Eureka Springs Police Chief Brian Young. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Last night at the city council meeting, you discussed the different tiers. I think that'd be very helpful if you could start with that.
Well, I think in discussion with you earlier, as far as the tiers, like I say, first of all, we need to start with the different levels of certification, just to kind of clear that up.
Okay.
Okay? You have auxiliary part-time certification, and then you have full-time certification. And then, of course, once you're full-time certified, then you have different levels of that certification also. But prior to before, I believe that I may have been misunderstood in a conversation about Officer Ray not being certified. Officer Ray is certified. He's certified auxiliary part-time. His job that he does, he has 2 different jobs. You have the building inspector, and then you have a code enforcement part of it. And that's what some of the confusion is. See, a building inspector can issue citations on certain codes, yes. But us, for a code enforcement officer, we also have ordinances. As you know, council passes ordinances. We're just a separate code person like that couldn't. They have to come under the authority to issue the citations because, you know, they would be certain misdemeanors, whether they be city ordinances or state codes. And therefore, they need to be an officer for that. And that's what his job is. He has, essentially, it's 2 part-time jobs combined into one. He has 20 hours building inspector, 20 hours under the code enforcement. And that's where his parts of it is. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes on that part of it.
So what would be an example of...
A code and an ordinance?
Yes, to kind of clarify that.
Okay, a code would be just what is on the books for buildings. You know, they have to have, you know, whether, you know, their footings and stuff like this. Okay, the inspectors go out and they check, and it has to be up to certain specs and whatnot. An ordinance would be someone operating without a business license. See what I'm saying? Or someone operating within the historic district without certain permits or something like that. Those would be ordinances.
So that would fall under the police
That would
department.
fall under the police. And that, or that's why he is certified as an officer, so he can go take care of that. And it
Okay.
takes a lot of burden off of or having to call, of a building official having to call an officer over to come do something. And they can remain on doing that. That way he can just do it all in one.
Okay. So some of the discussion that the Planning Commission is having is, you know, we're having issues with parking.
Okay.
And one of the recommendations that's been made to us is permits and things like that, and we're looking at the signage, and so we have, let's just say we have signs in the street that say residential parking for Pine Street only from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay.
So that's going to fall under the purview of the police department? Because,
Mm-hmm,
okay,
mm-hmm.
okay.
No, they would just be like any other parking.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I'm looking at the excavation and landfill, and it talks about pouring footings and,
Mhm.
but below every one of the things, it says ordinance number so-and-so. Grading ordinance on so-and-so. Looks like the city issued all those cut and fills and all are based on ordinances, not just,
Are you looking at the cities, or are you looking at a state?
I'm looking at the excavation landfill of the city of Lyric Springs.
Okay, so those would be city ordinances.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you say if you just look at as an example earlier, you said something about, well, if you did a foundation or whatever, that would be a,
Right, I was referring to just state code,
oh, okay.
to
okay.
building codes, like whether it's HVAC or
Oh, okay.
plumbing or so on
Yeah.
and so forth.
Okay, so the building code sometime more incorporate, I guess, is ordinances.
Right.
Yeah, okay, yeah, gotcha. Mhm.
Yeah, the only thing I had, Chief, thank you for your time today coming in, and was a mistake on my part, and I assumed some things, but I really would thank you for clearing that up for the community here, and I guess the question I have to you is Bobby Ray is acting as an auxiliary officer when doing traffic control. Is he needed as traffic control? Is there I know you guys get stretched sometimes, but I guess what I'm hearing from the community is that we need more time as code enforcement and not so much time directing traffic.
What he does, okay, and I know this because of course, I've worked with him for buku years now. What he does, he schedules his lunch period at that. He doesn't take a lunch at noon. Okay, he schedules things and he goes and meets people and some of these different contractors and stuff like that. Okay, and then on his what we would consider our lunch period, he goes up there, he donates his lunch period to help us with traffic control, and then he goes and finishes his stuff.
Great, that's excellent information. Okay, that's the only question I had.
Okay, and like I say, the same thing on weekends. When they see him out on weekends, they automatically assume that he's getting paid. He's
Right.
not getting paid. He's been donating his time for years to do that, to help us out with the things on weekends.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions?
No. Thank you.
I
Thank y'all for
appreciate
your
you
time.
coming. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and also, I'd like to say Officer Bozeman is my hero. Okay?
Okay, our next item on the agenda is a CUP for a 5-unit bed and breakfast for Robin Busby at 57 Hillside Avenue. Ms. Busby, if you'd like to come to the microphone.
Hi, I'm Robin Busby. I just recently bought the Inn at Rose Hall, or the former Inn at Rose Hall at 56 Hillside, and I would like a CUP to run it as a bed and breakfast yet again. It's the history of the property. Are you all familiar with the history of that property? It's been a really incredible property kind of throughout Eureka history. It was a magnetic spring sanatorium when it was first built. And it was that for several years at the turn of the century until it turned into the orphanage property. And then it was taken apart. I know people were taking the lumber and different pieces and parts of the property, but what's wonderful is you can still see some of the really majestic features of the stone walls and different things when it was one big property. A developer bought the property then, I believe in the 80s, late 80s, and turned Arsenic and Old Lace was the first property that was built. Then my property was built in 1991, the Inn at Rose Hall, and then in 1996, the Angel at Rose Hall was built to handle the overflow. So it had always remained a bed and breakfast or some type of commercial property. Then in 2018, a gentleman from Louisiana purchased the property who had come up from Louisiana for some respite. He was an antiques collector, and used the inn as a place to showcase his treasures that he had collected from all over the country and the world. And he then listed the property in 2019, and then due to COVID and different things going on, the house didn't sell until I bought it. So I'm hopeful to be able to turn it back into a bed and breakfast and to turn it into a place where the original developer, Sandy Liddell, I believe her last name is, had the vision for weddings. It's got beautiful stone walls. And the house did not sell for a very long time, so must not have been as desirable as one would have hoped. So I'm hopeful to be able to run it as a bed and breakfast and put the money into it that this place needs and deserves, to give it some of the Eureka history, and just even though it's not the Magnetic Springs Sanatorium anymore, but to honor that. There's a coach and buggy stop in front of it at the beginning of the property, and it just needs some love and money, and I'm hopeful to do that with your all's help. It's got 7 parking spaces of its own for a 5-room inn, so parking's not an issue, and it's on a private drive that's just Arsenic and Old Lace, my property, and the Angel at Rose Hall.
You are planning on residing there?
Yes, I live there now.
Okay. And you also would understand that if you advertise on Airbnb, VRBO, that the ad should mention that the subject property is a B&B and list the amenities provided, including breakfast?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. What, I don't have a problem with this because that's a house that was built for that. I met the gentleman that had bought it, and it was just like, do you really know what you're buying? You know, it
Right.
just was not conducive to a family home.
No,
But-
it's got hot tubs in the middle of the rooms.
Yeah, but we also, I think we need to give her a variance too, because she's between 2 other B&Bs, and it says not within 200 feet. I mean, we can issue her a variance for that too, tonight.
I'm literally shared driveway with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
then-
our law, so what we
Sure.
would do would give you a variance that.
Thank you.
That we would bypass this.
Yeah,
Okay,
good with that.
all right. Well, I'm going to make a motion.
Let me just,
Okay,
I would advise you to get this inspected by the building official and to get a Eureka Springs business license.
And do you know the
she will
person?
have to.
I-
To be you're going to go into business, correct?
Yes.
You will have to do all of
Yes.
this
Okay.
to get a
You
business.
can get with Kylie on that.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
who I thought might be my
Okay.
point
So,
person.
do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we grant a conditional use permit for 5 units of B&B lodging, along with a variance to allow her to operate within 200 feet of like properties for 56 Hillside Avenue.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very
Passes.
much.
Give me
Okay.
just a second, and I'll give you your certificate.
Okay.
Okay,
One
terrific.
thing I wanted to tell you, I went through, Google a little bit, and I looked at some of the reviews that date back for, a long time, and that property has been 5-star, reviews, unbelievable. So yeah, you've got a challenge, you got to fit those shoes.
Yeah,
and,
no, it's a lovely property, and actually, to be honest with you, I'm hopeful. It's got a lovely large kitchen, and it was set up to be an inn or an entertaining space, but
Right.
I would love, I'm an empty nester, I'm coming here as a single person, but I would love to hold like cooking classes that people in the community, if somebody knows how to make a mole sauce, or somebody has a talent that they would like to share, or they can grow orchids, I would love to have it as a space for people to gather and share ideas and have it a very community-based property and bring it back to the place. I mean, it's still beautiful, and they built, the first gentleman who developed it, that area, they did it, the inspectors always said it was built beautifully, so
Well,
I
welcome,
have big shoes to fill, but I'm hopeful.
well, welcome to town.
Thank you so very much.
Good luck to you.
This is a lifelong dream of mine.
Well, enjoy.
I hope to meet all of you on a different side of the table or just in general. So,
Okay.
so thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Okay, our third item on the agenda is the transfer CUP for one unit of tourist lodging for Marcia Yearsley at 2 Grand Avenue. I've got a motion to discuss.
I make a motion that we discuss the application for Duke Grand Avenue.
Second.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you all want to hear my story, but I bought this, this location was the original bed and breakfast in the state of Arkansas, opened by Crescent and Ned Shank in the 80s. And it was used only for that purpose until the Writers' Colony became a secondary, with the restaurant there at the inn at Dairy Hollow, became the main entity. And over probably a 5-year period, this property was pretty much left as Crescent left Eureka and the Writers' Colony was taken over by different administrators. This actual farmhouse, which was, like I say, the original bed and breakfast, was left to kind of deteriorate. And so I stepped in kind of to try to help the colony get some cash infusion and to save the house. And I bought it. And at that time, I didn't have a big plan for it, but I always thought that it should be kept as tourist lodging because it had such a history. Anyway, the long story short is I sold it on a contract to friends of mine, Jill and Rod Slane, who did a huge remodel on it, and they were able to get the original conditional use permit restored, and they ran it very successfully as overnight lodging. But all along, I really and truly legally owned it. They were buying it from me on a contract. So very recently, like a month ago, I bought back the improved interest from them. And I've just let it sit until I could get it the conditional use restored. The house is the second to last house in the city limits in Dairy Hollow. The only traffic on the street is one neighbor above me who lives out of the city limits, and the mail and UPS occasionally goes past it. So there's absolutely no traffic on this dirt road up from the doggy park. Also, it has 6 parking places that are legitimately cleared and kept cleared for traffic, so there's never going to be an impediment from parking. And my plan for it is to restore tourist use, but also I want to make it partially available to the colony. When they have writers who want to come and have a lot of privacy or bring a spouse or a dog or something like that, I want to make it available to the colony because I'm a big patron of the Writers' Colony, which is just doing fabulously. And I also own the little cottage across the road from this where Crescent and Ned lived for 25 years. So I'm very sentimental about both of them. So they have archival value. The level to which it's been restored, it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, probably would never be occupied by more than one family, maybe 2 couples. So there really would be very light use. And I just feel like that's the best use for the property, to be able to maintain it and also keep that historic presence. There are people who still come, for instance, Bill Clinton and many other Arkansas personalities used to come and stay there. So it's got its own special. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. It's not a very imposing. It was a farmhouse owned by the people who had the dairy at the top of the hill. So.
And how long have the Slanes been not involved in this?
They actually operated it for 3.5 years, 4 years maybe.
And when did they stop?
It's actually been operational since the middle of August. The last guest was the first weekend in September. And so I let them keep that last guest there, and that's when I filed the quitclaim, and that's when Kylie contacted me and said, you need to get this CUP restored or put into your name.
Oh, Kylie contacted you?
Excuse me?
Kylie contacted you?
Yes. She
Okay.
sent me a packet I really wasn't thinking much about it, to tell you the truth, but when I got the packet, I went immediately, and I missed the first, I would have been here in September, but we didn't get the publication in time. We missed it by a day, so we had to wait till this month.
I have some concerns about this, because I don't have anything with the Slane's name on this at all, and I just have a warranty deed that you've owned this property since
Can I
2000.
step a little closer, because I can barely hear you?
I mean, all I have is a warranty deed that you've owned this property since 2012. We just got last night past the third reading that there is no new tourist lodging in any residential area. I would like to get with Kylie and do a little bit more research, and I realize that means that you might have to send out notices again, but I think the city would be willing to pay for that. I just don't think I have enough information to vote on this tonight.
Did the Slanes have a CUP?
I got it in 2014.
Well, they got it, but the original one was issued in, he was grandfathered without any, since President Ned opened it, I don't know, it was 1987 maybe? It was the first bed and breakfast in Eureka. Nobody had even heard of bed and breakfast at that time. But, so it was, I guess it was a CUP. I don't even know if they had CUPs back then, but it was a grandfathered CUP once it became, that's what, 30 years? More than 30 years.
When did you take possession of it again, Marcia?
I think we made our deal I think I actually took possession the day before I filed the quitclaim, which was, the way I could legally say that, it's back in my name for taxes and all that. I think it was maybe the last week of August. I don't have that date in front of me.
Okay,
I can certainly get it.
all right.
But this is very far from a new application, just because of this series of circumstances that, led me to have to come here.
The ironic thing is, I'm Jill Slane's niece, and this is her sister, so I didn't know Marcia was going to be here. I was driving to Oklahoma with Jill, and she said, two people, because she said, first, what's has been a property for so long, so would mine, because I was nervous, so I know the intention was always to have that. It's ironic.
Well, I mean, I've been in properties, contract sales with Jill and Rod ever since they took over all my properties on Spring Street, which were commercially zoned, and so there was no transfer of any conditional use with them, and then they took over another of my properties on a contract, which is on Paxos Street, and that also was commercially zoned. So this is the only outstanding, so I didn't really think about it extremely a lot, We just did it as a matter of convenience.
Okay. What she is doing is she's actually transferring from one owner, even though she actually is the owner, to a single owner. And she
Yeah,
hasn't had a public hearing.
Yeah, I just would feel better to get with Kylie and
Right.
CAPC and,
No, but she has to have a public hearing.
oh, okay.
And so, Marcia, I know you've paid for everything, and we will make sure that the letters are sent out at our cost, or I think that's what Ann said. We've got to schedule you a public hearing, which we can do, I think, at the next meeting.
This isn't a public hearing?
We didn't schedule it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this
Yeah,
was
no,
a-
and it's kind of, this is a really gray area, I think, because you owned it jointly, and now one of you's going to be singly owning it.
You got
Yeah.
it exactly right. The only thing is, this keeps me from doing any business, which, I would really like to be able to do, because I already had to wait a month because of a one-day publication deadline missed, and which wasn't exactly my fault. I'm not
Okay.
going to go into detail, but
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll get with Kylie first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and
contact you.
we'll see how fast we can get this done, all right? But we do have to have, it's in here, you have to have a public hearing to transfer a conditional use permit.
So a public hearing means more people, or?
No, it usually means we say, we're open to the public meeting, is there anyone here to talk? And usually there's no one, and then we close it.
Oh, I thought that's what the newspaper
Yeah.
and the mailing that I did said. If you have
Right.
any comments to make, address them because of COVID, to address them to the city hall or to the planning commission, or show up on Tuesday night. I mean,
Right.
that's what I was sorry. I had
Yeah.
no earthly idea there was a chance that that would be a snag.
Yeah, I am so sorry. If we messed up, we totally apologize, but
So can I get a motion to defer this?
I will make a motion to defer it, and we'll get it done as quick as we can, I promise.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is new commercial construction review for single-family resident at lots 2627, Block 17, Clayton Addition, North Main Street, C1 for Corey Walker, Ken and Nancy Parker owners.
Good evening, I'm Corey Walker, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Corey, let me ask you, I always ask new applicants, especially when they're doing new construction, why Eureka Springs? Why this lot? What made you choose this?
Sure. Well, I'm actually the contractor who's put the application in for Ken and Nancy Parker, the owner, but knowing them and having talked with them for several months now, I know that their daughter owns a property next door to this, and that they have been coming down to Eureka Springs and spending 3 to 5 days a month for the last year and a half to visit their daughter and grandkids. I guess she lives in Southwest Arkansas. And just fell in love with the community, and they're coming down, bringing the big old RV down from Kansas City on a regular basis, and just got to thinking, why don't we invest some money and find a lot that's never been built and put up a house that we could stay in when we're there, and then when we're not there, we could allow it to be housing for tourists and be maintained by, a company or something when they're not present. So that was their goal in purchasing the properties.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
No.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the application for new commercial construction, lots 2627, Block 17, Clayton Addition. And this is going to be, is there an address? Well,
Yes, we were just issued an address this last week. It's 214 North Main Street.
okay, 214 North Main Street.
Correct.
All right.
I get a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Tell them
help.
welcome to town.
Will do. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is new commercial construction review for garage at 4087 East Van Buren for Brigido Tapia. Said that right?
No, not
Okay.
even close.
Not by shampoos,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to discuss.
I'll
No,
make a
let's-
motion to discuss.
Okay.
A second?
If you recall, back sometime, a while back, they came in for a tree removal and new construction for 2 garages. We approved the tree removal subject to them doing a landscaping up on East Van Buren in front of a garage. This application, as I understand, on the application, it shows the original application with 2 garages, one on East Van Buren on the highway and one behind the ridge there. As I understand it, they're not here tonight asking, he's not here tonight asking about the one up front where we required the landscaping plan. He's here to ask about the one down below the ridge, which cannot be seen from the road, so we didn't discuss landscaping that because you can't see it from the highway.
Right.
So I just want to make it clear, it still shows on the application 2 garages, but it's not, but
This
he's
is
only
not
here
the-
for 1 garage.
Right.
So,
Anybody have, is there a motion on the table?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve this application for new construction at 4087 East Van Buren.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so Shampoo, when you come back with the other garage, be sure you have your landscaping plan with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I still want to know how you actually pronounce Brigido.
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 Brigido. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, just
Gracias.
get with Kylie.
Bye now. Have a nice night.
Okay, new commercial construction review for 4 cabins at 454 West Van Buren for Loblolly Pines.
And Judge Moyer's here.
Motion to discuss.
Make a motion that we discuss.
Second.
Okay.
Hi there, I'm Jack Moyer, and I'm co-owner of Loblolly Pines Adventure Camp. It's actually 3 glamping sites, so they're not full cabins, and 1 cabin on the row of 4, adding a 5th. So 1 roadside camp, full cabin, and 3 glamping sites that sit in the lower section of the property. I've actually included that on the survey. You can see the size and the scale of the property. We sit on almost 10 acres, and you can see the small box on the survey,
Oh, okay.
and they're circled there.
Sure. We just want to know why you don't have a leash on your dog.
I don't have a dog, unfortunately.
No, we're just teasing in the picture.
Oh, yeah.
Is that your dog?
Does not come with dog.
Question, on the glamping cabins, do you have restrooms and showers and all on the site?
On the site, we have a community deck right underneath. Well, we'll sit atop. We'll have a restroom and a shower. They're already actually in place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you seen the ones up at Big Cedar?
I haven't yet. I
Oh.
can't afford to even look.
Oh, go look, because they have, you would like this. They have one that's a huge tent with, the wood floor.
Yeah.
It's way out of my price range,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the new construction for 4 cabins at 454 West Van Buren.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Jack, have you ever seen the cabins we've got at Lake Leatherwood, the little portable ones?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of resembles that a little bit.
Yeah, it's similar in its plan. It's a little bit different in the design. But thank you all.
Thank
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, Melissa, parking.
We've got, we talked about this. I think we need to come up, and it's an administrative thing, so we do not have to take it to the city council. But I think we need to come up with wordage, and we probably, I believe we need to define the problem areas.
Well, before we had discussed Elk Street, Pine Street, Mountain Street,
Spring Street.
and Spring Street.
There's some problems up on Benton that I've been asked about.
Benton?
Yes, up above the courthouse. Yeah, well, there's residents up there, and I think there's 1 or 2 parking spots. If they leave during the day, the shop owners take them, and they have no parking. So they definitely need one up there.
Well, I mean, we know about these right here because they've been discussed.
Right.
I'd like to start with these and then take a look at those others before
Okay.
we
Kind of
present this
phased
in.
approach.
Yeah.
Phased approach, yeah.
Okay.
I do think that, we talked about residential parking from 6 PM to 6 AM. I think we should definitely say Owens, or Pine Street, Mountain Street, Spring Street.
I think the hours in the morning need to be longer, because for people, if somebody gets up and goes to work, it's amazing how the restaurants around some of those streets they're there. I would say 6 to 8 AM.
6 PM to 8 AM?
Yep, and I would say, I don't know that I would say residential parking. I might say whatever street it is.
Just say Pine Street, Elk Street.
Yeah, because it basically will say, well, I'm a friend and I live in town, so I'm a resident. I mean, we really have to define, I believe, that it's for the people that own or rent property on these streets. And I don't think the whole street should be
Well, if you say Elk Street parking, 6 PM to 8 AM,
resident only. Elk Street resident, parking only. We got to make it, define it.
So you're talking about signage?
Yeah,
Signage.
yeah.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
and then this would be Pine Street residential,
Right.
resident parking only.
Right,
And you're talking 6 PM to 8 AM.
yes. And there would be also, I wouldn't say the whole street either.
Well, you can't make part of the street, because the
Well-
whole street's residential.
You-
Just because you may have it full up here, and down here may be a couple empty ones, you
Right,
can't.
but we have the problem on Spring Street, so are we going to make the whole Spring Street? No, what you would do is have an arrow, and you could have public parking that way, and then define where public parking is.
But for streets like Elk and Pine, they're really defined. I can
Right.
see where Spring Street, that'd be a problem not
Right.
to do what you're wanting to do.
Right.
But I think those would you be just, it's
Right.
the street.
Right, yeah. But
Maybe.
and
Maybe.
I'm not against that, I just want to make sure we do this right.
Well, hasn't the police say they really can't enforce this? I mean,
No, it is, they're the ones that would enforce this. I
They-
asked him that.
They can. It probably will end up, most tourists, when they see a sign like that, aren't going to disobey.
Right.
It's going to be neighbors that will somewhat disobey, and neighbors can take care of neighbors. But mostly, it's just kind of it's not going to solve the problem, it's going to help the
Yeah,
problem.
I think one of the things that you could do, and I was trying to do some research on this, is different color lines, that delineate that this is
Right.
special. Whether you use pink, whether you use, whatever, it's a color that's unusual, and it draws your attention to it.
Right.
And that way you know that it's special parking only.
Right.
And it's almost, like for handicap or whatever, it's bright yellow. Well, use a different color, but it's then
Right.
just your standard.
Right.
So that's one thing you can do
Right.
is delineate it.
Or we could have on the signs, fines enforced, I mean,
Right.
we could, we can start it out without, fines enforced, but if it doesn't work, then we can go to fines enforced. I mean, I just find most of the tourists in this town are respectful.
Right.
I think this is a baby step thing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And if we start out Owen Street, resident parking only, and this would be the same for Elk, Pine, Mountain, and even Spring. And it's not going to be us that's going to decide where those signs go. That's going to be administration.
right.
Um,
And I agree, Fergie, maybe marking off in a different color, because there's certain areas like down where you live, Ann, where a lot of times there's just no problem with parking. There's
Right.
a lot of empty spots. And so I'd love to have a tourist park there. But then on Sunday,
But then when those people that own those houses are there, I mean, that takes
Yeah.
away from when they're coming. I
Right.
just think we have to be very careful that we don't say,
Right.
well, you can go down at that end of the street because there's all
Right.
this parking and it's still residents.
right,
Right, what it takes, and this is just to let you know, my experience with the Nick's, because at First Memorial Baptist Church, where I go to church, we have parking spots that are specifically indicated that those are for church only during certain times. Well, I'm the head usher, and one of my duties is I stand over there and I make sure that if anybody parks there, they're coming to church, And so that's one of the things that the residents are going to have to help the PD out, or somebody's got, hey, this car doesn't belong here.
Right.
Or something, because that's the only way to make it work, because, it's like, John Cross said this one time, his own paid parking is if you give them an inch, they'll take a yard. So you gotta really just step up observing during the first time these are put out there, and make sure that the residents actually help the city enforce this requirement to make their life better.
well, sure. I mean, one of the problems we have, and they're not bad people, is there is a commercial tourist lodging, and those people come down and park on our street, and they kind of realize parking is bad, so they end up staying the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 spots for 9 cars.
Yeah.
There's always a fight on Elk Street.
Okay, so to get this started, we're going to make the recommendation that on Elk Street, Pine Street, Mountain Spring, and Spring Street, and when I'm talking Spring Street, I'm talking down past Crescent Drive. Is that where this starts? This
Yeah, I would put, Crescent Drive all the way up to the Rosalie, and I would stop it there. There'd be a sign at the Rosalie, and there'd be, be kind of a double-sided sign and double-sided sign down by Crescent.
Okay. And what it would say, each street would have the name on it. Pine Street resident parking only, 6 PM to 8 AM. Elk Street resident parking only, 6, and they would all say the same.
Right, right.
Okay, so can I get a motion that this is what we want to present?
I'll make a motion that we take this to
I'll
Ma-
take it to the mayor. yeah.
Mayor Butch for his approval and to administrate.
And, okay, I got a second on that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we can discuss the Benton Street.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a few other problems in town we're going to have to work on.
Okay, but this is
Yeah.
a start.
This is a start.
I'm
Okay.
just curious, when you say mountain, is there a specific area of mountain that we're talking about? I'm not really.
We're talking about mountain over by my house. We're not talking about East Mountain.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, Mountain
Of
Street.
course, all right.
We're talking this has nothing to
Yeah.
do, okay.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to
Yeah,
turn that the whole way up.
all right, Melissa, mobile homes.
Okay. As we all know, we've had a lot of talk over the years about affordable housing, housing for our workers. If we have mobile home areas, and mobile homes don't have to be trashy, nasty, like we kind of have this attitude about them. They can be gorgeous. I mean, look at the places in Florida and Texas that people retire in. They're gorgeous. And there are those kind of mobile home parks all over. We have zoning for it that we've kind of never talk about. We also have agriculture that we'll probably never use for agriculture, and we also have light industrial that a lot of it we'll probably never use for that either. I think we need to start exploring it. A brand-new mobile home you can get for like $50,000, and they're nice. And they would be affordable, or many of our business owners could maybe invest in them and rent them to their employees. I just think it's something, because we do need housing, and it is a inexpensive way to have housing. And like I said, it doesn't have to be what we always think they are. They can be beautiful. These parks can be beautiful, and you vet them and you take care of them. I mean, even though it's not a mobile home park, go and look at Victoria Woods, and there's an example of community living that's lovely.
Well, I think if somebody brought to the table that they wanted to put one in
Right.
to the planning commission and it's in the right place, I don't think we'd have a problem with that.
We wouldn't, but we have to rezone.
Yeah, one thing, just to let the Planning Commission know that I'm reviewing currently some veteran tiny homes that are being built in Rogers and Fayetteville. I talked to Mr. Bozeman, who's our congressman, and he told me that they're just starting construction. So I'll be able to see how this community is put together.
Sure.
But, yeah, I agree. We need a small footprint type of house that has accessible, meaning maybe one car space. At the same time, not a high demand on our sewer lines and our water lines and
Right.
things like that. So mobile homes does make sense. The only dynamic is that you got to have room to get them in and out,
Right.
and that's the only problem. But a tiny home kind of like fits as it for longer period of time versus a short period of time that, and those are the kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
issues that are out there.
Yeah, and I'm not against that. I just, we can build those in a lot of zones. And at some point, I talked with you, Tom, once about something about certain areas, was it Colorado, where,
Breckenridge.
yeah, why don't you tell us about that? I remember talking to you about that.
I was in Breckenridge, I guess in the last 1977, 78, and then there was a problem there. A lot of the restaurants are having the same problem we're having now, even that far back, because Breckenridge was starting to grow as far as people actually living there and buying property and putting weekend houses, or, like we have here, people don't live here but stay there 1 or 2 months out of the year. So the city actually passed a bond issue and built some housing just for employees that worked in the city of Breckenridge. I looked up again the ordinance, what they've done since then. As the town is growing now and they're building multifamily apartments, they're requiring that a certain percent, 10 or 15 or 20% be reserved just for people that work in the city of Breckenridge. And of course, the city is growing and they're building a lot of multifamily housing there, so indirectly they're getting the developer to put in housing that people can afford without the city getting involved in it other than passing the ordinance. And, and the only problem with the mobile home park is finding a piece of property and finding somebody who wants to put the infrastructure in. I mean,
Right.
it costs
Well,
money.
And that's the same with the tiny homes. It's just, we at least if we rezone them, it's not our responsibility to build them, but if we have some areas, or I like what you said, if we make it in our zoning codes that a subdivision has to build at least 1 or 2 affordable homes or a duplex or a couple of townhouses, that might be an answer too. I mean, we are going to have to address this problem. It has become a problem.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
Okay. We don't have any unfinished business. We do have the discussion of changes to rules and procedure and changes of applications. Kylie is not here. I'd like to just hold this off till the next meeting.
Let's postpone that till the next meeting.
So, Commissioner comments, Joe?
Well, the only comment I would have is that I've seen some photos, is it the old Victorian Inn that's mostly
Yes.
demolished?
Yes.
And it was sent to me that there was photos of just like people dumping trash. Now, I think a copy of that has been, of that photo has been
Yes.
sent to Butch.
It has been, and this has all been turned over to the EPA.
Awesome, okay, thank you.
Okay. Tom?
No comment.
Melissa?
Just to kind of answer Joe on that, even though it would be, Butch is the highest official of our town, it was correct for him to have sent it over to the EPA. It's also on private property. So it becomes,
Okay.
but yeah, it definitely was sent over there where it should have been.
Fergie?
Yeah, I just want to do a shout out to those people in the background, like our AV, audiovisual guys, and Ann, who does our minutes. Thank you for your service, and those people that don't get camera time. And so I wanted to say thank you for doing the background stuff that's got to get done. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the residents of East Mountain. We got the third reading last night on the tourist lodging. So I think everybody, as a team effort, did a very good job.
Here, here.
With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
And a second on that? All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.